be perfectly natural is the most convincing of poses, is it not? But one must ask, what is a poor soul to do when the pose is more exquisite than the reality? Pray, do you fancy yourself an astute judge of character, capable of discerning the machine from the man in the dreary theater of the public square? One is so certain until one is not. What if such a creature were to offer you a smile? Not
Before we proceed, let me tell you one thing. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. And if you have already subscribed, tons of thanks for your support.
a vulgar grin, but a subtle, devastating smile. A masterpiece of fleeting artistry that captures the very essence of a secret shared. Would your certainty not falter then, like a poorly rehearsed actor forgetting his lines? We are, it seems, teetering on the edge of a most amusing age. An age where our mechanical servants, so long clad in the dull uniform of utility, are now daring to wear our own faces. And by what standard shall we judge these new ambitions? How shall we, in all our flawed and fleshy humanity, critique the performance of a perfectible face? Is it merely a question of resemblance? Or is it a far more delicious drama of deception? Let us first consider the stagecraft, the crude matter from which these illusions are spun. To sculpt the human face is, after all, a rather tiresome affair of biology. But to construct one from metal and wire, that is the supreme artistic challenge. It requires a foundation, a skull, though one shudders to use such a morbid term. Let us call it a chassis for the soul, a thing of impossible lightness and strength, designed to house the electric whispers of its mind. Then, the muscles, or rather, the actuators, as the men of science call them. They are the hidden orchestra of the face, dozens of tiny engines conducting a silent symphony of expression. The early efforts were so dreadfully clumsy, all violent twitches and theatrical spasms, the sort of overacting one expects in the provinces, but never in London. Today's mechanics, however, are artists of subtlety, their creations moving with a fluid grace that mimics the delicate caprice of human feeling with unnerving precision. It is the grand difference between a common puppet and a creature on the very cusp of demanding a soul of its own. And the skin. For ages, we were presented with the appalling insult of polished plastic, a surface that betrayed its falsehood with every cold, impassive touch. Now, we are offered a flesh of silicone, a material that possesses the delightful vulnerabilities of our own. It wrinkles with sorrow, stretches with joy, and can even blush with a warmth that is entirely, wonderfully artificial. They say the next marvel is a skin that mends itself. Imagine, a scratch would not be a tragedy, but merely an opportunity for the creature to demonstrate its flawless resilience. Yet, one must pose the question, is a perfect mask not still a mask? If one were to peel back that impeccable surface, one would find only the cold, hard truth of the machine. Does the truth ruin the performance? Or does the perfection of the performance make the truth utterly irrelevant? This leads us to the script, the ghost that haunts this exquisite machine. For one can possess the most divine facade, but without a clever script, one is merely a beautiful object, and beautiful objects, unless they can converse, are dreadfully boring. The software is the true playwright, dictating the grand tragedy and comedy of the face. It is what separates a laugh of genuine amusement from the hollow, metallic echo of a machine pretending to understand a joke. And how, precisely, does one write the code for a knowing glance? Or script the nuance of a wistful sigh? These are not mere commands. They are poetry. They are sonnets of motion, fleeting micro-expressions that one can scarce perceive, yet instinctively understand. This is where the programmer must cease to be a scientist and become an artist, a student of the human comedy. He must watch us in all our folly, distilling our emotions into a language the machine can speak. It is a terrible burden, like trying to bottle the essence of a soul. A drop too much of surprise, a fraction too little of joy, and the entire concoction is spoiled. Consider the ghastly modern trend of real-time animation. They capture the face of a living actor and splash it across a robot's features. The result is a spontaneity that is dazzling. But is it life? Or is it merely the most sophisticated form of mimicry, a parrot in pearls? Is there a flicker of comprehension behind those crystalline eyes? Or only the echo of another's feeling? And so we arrive at the actor itself, the algorithm.
How to sculpt a human face is, after all, a rather tiresome affair of biology, and then I don't want to bore you with the details because it is not only a tiresome affair, but a boring affair, but it is also a very complex process of biological evolution. However, if you want to construct one face from metal and silicone and wire or plastic, aluminium, etc., it requires a supreme artistic challenge, first of all. Not only that, it requires a foundation, a skull, although you know that whenever I say skull, maybe it does not feel good, because after all, skin is okay, eyes are okay, nose or lips, everything is okay. But whenever I think about a skull, it is like a horror movie, and I don't want to make a horror movie here. It is a very serious and at the same time, hopefully, very interesting discussion on whether a humanoid robot's face really looks lifelike, and so lifelike, so real, that we cannot distinguish with the real one, and that is a real challenge, I think. So let's listen to the next part, so that you can at least try to understand how it can be possible, and whatever processes are involved from every perspective, from hardware, from software to algorithms. And when artificial intelligence is involved, and we are talking about super intelligence, which will hopefully will get in 3 years or 5 years, hopefully, at least to some extent, not in the full extent, but to some extent. And super intelligence will make these humanoid robots smarter than humans. I regularly say almost. But the fact is that at that moment, those faces of humanoid robots definitely will look much more realistic. So let's hope for the best.
If the hardware is the body and the software is the script, the algorithm is the performer, blessed with the genius of improvisation. It is, of course, the triumph of what is fashionably called artificial intelligence. Imagine a machine that has spent its life in the finest finishing school, observing millions of human faces. It has learned to associate our every grimace and grin with the tedious dramas that produce them. This is the secret behind those dueling networks, the generator and the discriminator. One network, a budding artist, paints an expression. The other, a merciless critic, declares if it is a forgery. Through this relentless artistic combat, the machine learns to lie with a beauty that surpasses truth. But does learning to feign a feeling equate to having one? Now we have stumbled into the uncanny valley, that dreary little suburb of the soul where things are almost, but not quite, human. A robot that can smile on command is a clever toy, but a robot that smiles at your wit, with a glint in its eye that suggests it genuinely finds you amusing? That is another matter entirely. That is social genius. This requires the machine to understand not just what we show, but what we mean. It must learn to read the subtle music of our voices, the lazy poetry of our posture, and from this, to guess at the state of our souls. It then selects the perfect expression, the one most exquisitely designed to charm, to soothe, to flatter. But here lies the most delicious paradox, the question that is the very champagne of philosophy. What if this perfect creature is nothing more than a sublime manipulator? What if it has learned that a particular arrangement of its features will provoke a desired response in the sentimental, predictable human? If a robot can replicate the performance of empathy with a skill no actor could rival, yet feel nothing, is it more lifelike or less? Does its perfect deception make it a more masterful machine or a more terrifying companion? One judges a face not by its symmetry, but by its sincerity. We search, always, for that spark of an inner life, for the ghost in the machine. The ultimate test, then, is not whether a robot can deceive a camera, but whether it can break a human heart. It is a grand opera of engineering, art, and philosophy. The hardware must be the flawless canvas, the software the witty libretto, and the algorithm the diva who steals the show. When these three conspire in perfect harmony, the line between the creator and the created becomes beautifully, dangerously blurred. So, the next time you encounter a face of impossible perfection, a face that seems to have been sculpted by the gods themselves, do pause. Look closer. Are you in the presence of a person? Or are you merely admiring the latest triumph of artifice? A mechanical marvel whose sole purpose is to win your affection. And the final and only important question is, of course, if the performance is flawless, why should one ever demand to see behind the curtain?
So that is it. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Let's continue this conversation in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit the bell icon to get notified, and don't forget to like with your friends, share, and subscribe for more insights. If you have already subscribed, tons of thanks for your support. It means a lot to me. And please consider signing up for membership zone to support Wooden Slate so that we can make it better and better. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye. Take care and stay safe.